There's no way we're going to get divorced. Yes, of course we're going to get divorced, and I'll even ask for alimony. My wife screams. My name is Hishi. I'm a website worker. My wife, whom I married 2 years ago, works in sales at a major real estate company. We haven't had a child yet. It's not that it's a quality thing, but because she's been working overtime every day for a big project that depends on her career at work. And when she comes home, she takes a bath and lies down in bed, exhausted for the past 6 months. I often have meetings with creators at night, so we've been in a sexless relationship for about 6 months due to a mismatch in our lifestyles. I can't share our sex life with my wife, who looks like she's in pain late at night. So all I can do is gently stroke her bangs that are hanging down on her forehead. I have never given up on having children, but when I look at my wife now, I can't help but feel that I want her to have a healthy body. My wife also says that the project will be over soon, so we should put off having children for a little while longer. One day, my wife came home early. We had dinner together for the first time in a while and drank a little wine. I was in high spirits. My wife was smiling too. I really enjoyed spending time with her. I told her that I wanted to have children soon, and I replied, maybe a little later. That night, she asked me if I wanted to have children, and I got excited when we had sex for the first time in a while. I wondered if I should deny it. I asked her timidly, and she said, of course, which made me happy. Until then, I had been busy with my wife's work. I was on birth control because I thought about that. A week later, my wife came home early. She told me she was pregnant. I asked her if it was okay to give birth. For a moment, I couldn't say anything. Instead, tears came out. I couldn't say anything, so I hugged her in silence. I vowed to myself that I would protect both the baby and my wife. A year later, my wife gave birth to a cute baby girl. She looked like my wife, and I was glad. She had a cute smile. After giving birth, I returned to work in 2 weeks, as per the company's regulations. Those 2 weeks were very fulfilling. I talked a lot with my wife and had a lot of fun with our daughter. Since I was at home, I was in charge of looking after the baby. Since I was at home, I had relatively free time, so it was no problem for me to see my cute daughter. My mother-in-law, who lived nearby, often helped out. She comes over to visit us, but every time she comes over she says something mean to us. That's the extent of the problem. I'll take care of Desan, so you can go out to work. I work from home, so I can take good care of our daughter. I send my wife out to work and spend all my time playing with our daughter. Playing with our daughter is necessary for her development, so I play with her when I have time. When our daughter is asleep, I play with my computer. When she's asleep, I concentrate on my work, and when she wakes up, I play with her again, and so on. No matter how much I tell her that I run a website from home, she doesn't listen. In the end, she tries to ruin it by saying that I don't go to work because of these things, and I didn't want to cause my wife any unnecessary worry. I haven't said anything, but it's gotten especially bad recently. Since my daughter was born, she started coming over to our house more often, and I feel like she started to treat me better. My wife didn't come over that often. She was a good mother-in-law, but since she started coming over more frequently, she's become really nasty, and that's how it is today. For about a week after she returned to work, she would come home early, and we would have midnight snacks together and tease our daughter. Our daughter would often laugh, probably because she was happy to have her mother there. I couldn't help but grin when I saw that. However, I gradually started coming home later when I had to work overtime. I've reverted to the way I was before I got pregnant. Naturally, I'm in a sexless marriage. I'm always coming home late, but my body is fine. Don't worry, I think it'll calm down soon. Since then, this conversation has been repeated over and over. Today, too, I got home on the last train, took a bath, and headed straight to bed. Lately, it feels like I've only heard her say, I'm home. Our daughter was born, so maybe I should cut back on work a little. I can't help but worry about her health. As I was thinking this, looking at my wife asleep in bed, my wife said something. Takaki, one more time. I didn't mishear. Who is it? Surely she's cheating? What does one more time mean? Now that I think she's cheated on me once, I can't help but worry. It's not that she's late because she's working overtime, but that she was probably just playing around in her dreams with this guy named Takaki. But what does one more time mean? I can't believe in my wife. Wanting to know more? I checked my wife's smartphone. In my mind, I told myself that I must have misheard something or misunderstood something. But if nothing had happened, I would have no words to reassure her. The line history revealed the fact that she was cheating. Apparently, Taco was a colleague. Thinking back, I often worked at night, and my wife worked during the day, so it was inevitable that we would cross paths. Especially since she was a colleague at work, that meant we spent more time together than we did. And there was another fact. Our daughter was Takaki's child. The line history revealed that she had been cheating for about a year and a half. When she asked me out when we were getting married, it was to cover up the fact that she had gotten pregnant as a result of sex with Takaki. I was so excited that I didn't know that. I was the flag. Tears. It won't stop. Is this really happening? After crying for a while, I suddenly calmed down. I suddenly felt the desire to somehow make those people who did such terrible things suffer. Even if I woke her up now, I would be the only one to be caught, and I am calm enough to know that. The divorce is now final, and now I need to punish these people. First, I need to gather evidence quickly and check this woman's line history to see what she is doing normally, but I'm sure I would get found out if I followed her. At a time like this, I think I should consult with a guy I was close to in college. There's a guy who I've been ignoring. I'll go back to reality and take his smartphone. It's the middle of the night, so I'll be careful. The person I'm talking to immediately answers. It's been a while. What's going on at this time of night? It's a friend from college who works at the renewal office. I'll let him know what happened. He is definitely cheating. I don't care anymore. The divorce is final. All that's left is to present the evidence. The question is when to do it. I want to take it with me so that I can cause the maximum damage. Screenshots from my phone are not strong enough. I told him I wanted photos taken with film. Okay, I'll stick around for a week. Will I be able to get along well from the next day? I have to try not to let him find out. After a week, I get a call from a friend. The investigation is over. The report is ready, so I want you to take a look. Okay, bring it over to my house. A few minutes later, it's a harsh reality, but this is the report. I open the envelope containing the report. All of the 10 or so photos are dated and time-stamped. In a week, I'll be going in and out of an adult hotel. The photos show them entering the hotel at around 8 p.m., but one set was at 1 p.m. I was more than surprised that these guys were going to a hotel in the middle of work. The rest of the photos show them holding hands and kissing in the street. It's okay now. I was prepared for this to happen, so my friend kept quiet. I was happy with his consideration. My wife left the house, saying she was going on a business trip for 3 days, starting on Thursday. She was smiling and said, I guess it's an affair trip, but I should be happy while I can. I'm off. I'll buy some souvenirs. When I get back, I'll leave our daughter with your mother, and we'll go on a date. She left at the end of the day, probably on a business trip. She should act a little better. She changed her dress in the afternoon, and her mother-in-law flew out. It's your fault that you don't go out to work, so your daughter is. I'm going to destroy this PC that got into an accident. I was cleaning and grabbed a bucket and poured the water from it onto the PC. The PC let out a pop of white smoke, and the monitor went off for now. I let her calm down and listen to her story. My father-in-law, who had been in an accident on a business trip and was taken to the hospital and had not regained consciousness, had been to the hospital first. It was about a 2-hour train ride away. I took my mother-in-law and took a taxi to the hospital. When we arrived at the hospital, my wife was asleep. Her face was completely wrapped up in bandages. She had just been released from the intensive care unit. The doctor in charge called me. It was basically like this. The car my wife was in went off the road and overturned, and my wife was apparently thrown out of the car. Apparently, she was hit in a bad way and maybe paralyzed from the waist down. The man who was driving also hit his head hard. Apparently, she was unconscious and in a traffic jam. As my wife was sleeping, my mother-in-law said, You didn't go to work. That's why our daughter went through this. Even if she's in a wheelchair, you have to take good care of her. My wife, who was in the hospital, started making a fuss next to her, and then she opened her eyes. That was Taka's first generation. It's over. Those were the first words that came to my mind. I think she gradually became more conscious. I can't forget the look of surprise on her face when she met my eyes. I'm glad my mother-in-law woke up. Don't worry, Hishi-san will take good care of you from now on. I won't look at you. The hospital room was silent. My father-in-law opened his eyes wide. What are you talking about? Please explain what you mean. I asked your company for an inquiry. I called my wife, but she didn't answer, so I asked for a union. However, he replied that he had no plans for a business trip and that he had heard he was on paid leave starting today. He knew it was an affair trip because a friend had contacted him to say that he had taken a photo of Taka and his wife going out together. As soon as they got into the car, they kissed, and he explained to her. A photo of his wife and Takaki going into an adult hotel room. The infidelity investigation report was released, and there was plenty of evidence of the affair. There was no way they were going to get a divorce. Of course, we would get a divorce, and we would demand alimony. The wife screamed. She was practically bound to a wheelchair. She started crying. What about the child? She was practically screaming. Why not raise it with Takaki? He had also filed a lawsuit against the man who had been removed, and if it was accepted, they would have no parent-child relationship and would be able to live with him. That child is yours, my wife shouted. So what is it? When I handed her a copy of the line messages, my wife turned even paler and went quiet. The line messages said this. Taka, I seem to be pregnant. Is it true? What should I do? I want to give birth. It's my beloved Takaki's child, so I'm going to give birth. How am I going to explain it to my husband? I'll just keep quiet and have sex with my husband soon and pretend I'm pregnant. I'll raise it as my own child and let it bloom. Apparently, she was planning to let it bloom. Her parents-in-law, who didn't know anything about it, also knew the reason why she couldn't be with Takaki, who had been changing jobs since earlier. He was the biggest jerk, and I guess he thought I was the only one he could rely on. None of that was of any concern to me. That's not it. I did what I had to do, so I have to take responsibility for it. I'm an adult. So in fact, my wife has still been messing around with things. She's embezzling our shared assets. Even though we call it shared assets, we rent the house, we don't have a car, and it's barely any savings, but she's been embezzling them. It's all gone. I always gave my wife money to put into the account, so I've never even seen the bank book, but since we've both started working, she's been saving 50,000 yen a month, but it's almost gone. I'm divorcing you. This is a done deal. If you're not happy, we can go to arbitration or court. I have solid evidence of her cheating, so I don't feel like I'm going to lose, so I'm going to take it on. My ex-wife is already my ex-wife in my mind, and my ex-parents-in-law and ex-mother-in-law are screaming at me. You're still going to abandon your wife in this state and abandon an unmanned priest. Are you human? I yelled, enraged by my father-in-law's words. Your daughter abandoned me first. Take a good look at these line messages. I hurled a copy of my messages at Ari. My parents-in-law flinched at my message, and the baby began to cry. Finally, I told my wife, when you get out of the hospital, go back to your parents' house with your daughter. I'll send your belongings and the divorce papers and leave them there. With that, I left the hospital room. That was the moment I abandoned my fake family. I later heard that they were touching each other's lower bodies while driving, and Takaki apologized for steering, which apparently caused the accident. There was a clear video of it on the dashcam. How hungry are they? If it was as planned, they were supposed to stay in a hotel after this, weren't they? What a freak. I never want to see their faces again, but there's still things to do. In the end, the ex-wives are at the top and in court. My ex-parents, who agreed to the divorce without causing any trouble, agreed to the divorce without any problems, and it seems that I convinced my ex-wife to divorce me by saying that she would take care of our daughter, who is now paralyzed from the waist down, and Takaki's child, that I agreed to all the conditions, including the presence of my lawyer, and I also agreed to pay 3 million yen in alimony. The only division of assets was a deposit, so I converted 2 million yen of my savings. I would not pay child support, and all future contact would only be through my lawyer, that I had him write and seal all of this on paper. And I was like, is it really over now? And does he not see the end of it? And does he not even show any remorse? Does he think he can be forgiven? Why is he forgiving himself when I didn't even say that I would forgive him? Even if he apologizes, he won't be forgiven. I question his humanity. And now there's another bombshell. On the 10th, I asked my mother-in-law for damages, and she asked for 1 million yen for a PC. The damages from not being able to use it were 2 million yen, and the bill is for a total of 3 million yen. My ex-mother-in-law is furious. There's no way a toy like that can be that expensive. It's just a toy to play with. The PC my mother-in-law thought was just playing with was actually my main PC for work, so it cost a fair amount of money. The website and the PC no longer working caused a lot of problems, and the bill came to 2 million yen. My ex-wife is in a wheelchair, and of course she has no savings, so my parents-in-law have to pay. My ex-father-in-law said, "I'm sorry, Hiroshi. We'll pay it all in one lump sum. We'll have to sell the house, but that can't be helped. If we can get by with even just a little, we can manage with that for a while. I don't think we'll ever see each other again, but we broke up, saying take care." But my ex-wife and ex-parents-in-law didn't know that he had an affair, which means he had someone else. In fact, Takashi's wife had evidence of this affair. I've given them all of the belongings and even introduced them to a lawyer. Takaki also needs to be punished. I also demanded compensation from Takaki. Of course, I also demanded compensation from Takaki's wife. And I also demanded 3 million yen from Takaki. Takaki's wife demanded 3 million yen from her ex-wife. She also demanded 3 million yen in compensation from Takaki. The house Takaki lives in was acquired by Takaki's wife before they got married, and it is in her name. Naturally, Takaki was kicked out of the house after the divorce. Also, Takaki had spent all of the couple's savings, so he demanded a refund. The amount of the refund was apparently 7 million yen. It seems that his ex-wife and ex-parents-in-law are living in a cheap, not very clean, small apartment. Takaki, who has nowhere to go, is also moving in. It seems that his ex-wife is happy that she has more opportunities to work. Speaking of family, it's family after all, a mix of trashy men and women. Apparently his parents-in-law live in a 6-tatami apartment. It's so cramped. In the end, his parents-in-law couldn't pay off their debts by selling the house, so they're working part-time. Apparently, he asked a relative for money, saying that his wife became disabled and left him, so it's hard to make ends meet. But I went first to say hello and explain. Apparently, the whole affair was discovered by the relatives, and they cut ties with him. The good thing is that a relative without children took the child in. They're not related by blood, but it's sad that a child who changed his omelet and gave him milk has to go through such a hard time. Takaki also had an affair and was divorced, and while he's looked down upon, his ex-wife is clinging to her company because of her debts. It seems she's making money by quitting her job. So, do I know all this? Well, she's a spirit friend, and she gives him information from time to time. Of course, it's free. A good thing to have as a friend. Later, I apologized to Takaki's wife for my wife's move on her husband. I destroyed your family too. Has Takaki's wife gotten over it? Your family was destroyed too. You have to forget about those scumbags and think about what lies ahead. We are both such nice people. Why did she marry Takaki? He seems to be good at talking, so I guess she said nice things to get in his way. And I cooperated with him to punish his infidelity. I'm marrying Takaki's ex-wife. I think he trusted me because I introduced him to his lawyer and data on his affairs. It's been a long time, and I'm enjoying my life to the fullest. I'm sick of marriage now. Just when I thought this was the end, Takaki did something outrageous. A slanderous message appeared on my website. I received a huge amount of anonymous posts, but they were all saying things like, "The administrator here is constantly cheating on his wife. He's not afraid to flirt with other people's wives. He's been arrested. He's weakening women and saying shady things," and so on. I can't really dig into it. I'm getting a lot of calls from advertisers asking about contract terminations and such, and Takaki's ex-wife was worried about me. Takaki's ex-wife was also looking at my site a lot, and she even called me to say she was worried that the comments section had been clear recently. As a business owner, this is a relief. I've built a good relationship of trust with the people who advertise now, so I won't be suffering any sudden losses, but it will be difficult to get new ads. Of course, I will take action to identify him. I immediately filed a request for disclosure through my lawyer. Matsuko was able to identify him after a few months, and as expected, it was Takaki. I'm seeking damages and compensation for the existing reputation of Takaki. I asked the lawyer to take up the case. I know where he is, so it's easy to notify him. Later, I called him to a coffee shop near his company. I went to Tokyo's place, accompanied by my lawyer. Naturally, he ran off without a word. Takaki. I don't think he has any more business with me, but he looks a little like me. I didn't want to see him either, but you made an arrangement to meet, so he looks a little like me. It seems like you've been posting all sorts of things on my website. What's going on? I don't even know what your website is. You've been posting loads of slanderous comments on my website. There's no proof that you posted anything. It's anonymous, so why are you assuming it's me? Yes, I got a confession. How did you know the slander was anonymous? I thought you didn't know about my website at all. Takaki was clearly upset. The number used in the slander matches Takaki's. If you're going to harass someone, you can't do it on your own smartphone. You have to go to Mankitsu or use a PC used by random people. But even then, you can find out who used which PC on Mankitsu and when so you can identify them. Be careful if you feel safe because it's Mankitsu. When you enter Mankitsu, you have to show your ID and register as a member, so it's impossible to identify you as an individual. At the very least, it's impossible for an individual to do it, but someone from an investigative agency could. They can't be that thoughtful. When they confronted him with his number, he admitted it, which was pretty brave. Here, they demanded a total of 8 million yen in damages for the few months Tokio's appearance and for his reputation, and the lawyer gently said that if he couldn't accept Tokio's actions, he would be taken to criminal and civil court. It's scary when you're told so gently at a time like this. I'm sorry, but I haven't paid the compensation yet. I can't pay the remaining amount right now. Why can't I pay it in installments? Okay, 60 installments is fine. Is that okay? In that case, I can somehow pay it off. In return, I'll get a proper IOU written. I knew I didn't have any cash on me right now, so I got an IOU written in the form of a loan. With the scary word lawsuit and the IOU written, I thought I could get away from this place for the time being. So I rebelled and signed the IOU with Tokio-san. If it goes to court, I'll have to quit my job and I won't be able to pay back my debts, so I'd like to be spared the court case. He said he slandered me because he saw me and Takamoto's wife talking happily at a cafe, but whoever he's talking to is his own choice. He has a wife, but he cheated on me and got kicked out of the house. What's with being jealous? I want to punish you guys. We were just discussing what to do. Anyway, Tokio and I had signed the IOU, so I was happy to be able to leave the place. Takaki, I wonder if you don't know that you have to pay later. Anyway, I got what I was getting, so we're breaking up for today. The purpose of this meeting was not to care about whether or not to split the IOU. Takaki didn't realize it, but writing the IOU would trigger the final punishment, and in order to do that, he had to show his generosity. Everything was going as planned, so he almost grinned. Even if they split the payment, Takaki wouldn't have any way to pay. But Takaki, I haven't forgotten. That I cheated on her, that I forced the child that was conceived after that onto Tokio, and that this happened. Later, the IOU expired, and there was still no payment. It was as planned. I forget how many times it was, but punishment was triggered. At Otaku's company, it is said that you should not default on your debts. Are you giving them guidance? I think I asked the company's general affairs department, but there were people who posted a lot of slanderous comments on the website I run. What's going on with employee training? I could hear the general affairs department panicking over the phone. It's fine this time, so please give them proper training. I didn't tell them his name, but it seems they've launched an investigation, which is understandable for the company to do, but Takaki was exposed. He couldn't bear the criticism of the rumors spreading and being isolated, so he resigned voluntarily. Now he has no income. I have a loan facility, but I put in a statement that if the deadline is not met, I will not complain if it is sent to a reconstruction and collection company, but he still signed it. It can't be helped, right? I sold it to a financial company that is doing reconstruction and collection properly. It was introduced by a friend at the renewal office, and it's a really dangerous place with people who aren't as kind as me. I think I'll have to ask, but that can't be helped. Later, debt collectors burst into the house, and apparently a meeting was held to plan debt repayment that included not only Takaki, but also his ex-wife and ex-parents-in-law. Since then, the family hasn't been seen since. Rumor has it that they're living a healthy life in a nice place. If he hadn't betrayed Hishi, who was so kind, this wouldn't have happened. If he hadn't done it to Anai-san, his peaceful life would have been delayed. He shouldn't have held a grudge and slandered her, but it's too late now to regret. It seems that he is seriously trying to repay his debts, crying out from his soul. This is the end. I have some money to spare now, and I'm living a comfortable life. My relationship with Takamoto's wife has also grown deeper. It's easy to get along when you have a common enemy, isn't it? Nowadays, we have begun to have a faint hope that we will get married. We can even laugh and talk about marriage for a while. Thank you for watching until the end. Please look forward to the next episode.